Hello, good morning and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of Hindu News Analysis dated 30th July 2024. We want to make this initiative a one-stop destination for all of your current affairs requirements. So if you like these initiatives, hit the like button, and if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now the articles that I'll be taking up in today's discussion, the total number of articles is 9, out of which 8 articles are from Hindu newspaper itself, and I've taken one more article which has appeared as editorial in the business line, again today's newspaper itself. So all these 8 articles from international edition of the Hindu and one editorial along with one more in the Hindu newspaper I'll be clubbing and discussing, and that is from the business line. The first article, very big article. If you have seen the newspaper, some of you would be surprised because the size of the article is a full page article. That is the Can States tax mining activities? Very recently a Supreme Court judgment has been issued. Today we will have a detailed discussion regarding it. Second, the problem with India's blocking of the Chinese, that is the editorial in today's Hindu. I'll club the discussion with one more editorial which has appeared in the business line. And both the articles have a very interesting take of relations between India and China, specifically the economic relations. The Chinese firms teaming up with Indian firms will pay off. Third article, further delays in the census is perilous. Again, one more editorial in Hindu newspaper. Center likely to move ILO against its India's employment report. Specifically in the month of March, there was a report that was published by ILO. And there was a very big article again given in Hindu newspaper under text as well as context. And yesterday, there was a discussion whether India will oppose this particular report against this report at ILO. So that article is published today. Today we will have a look at it. Supreme Court begins week-long Lok Adalat drive. For the first time, Supreme Court of India has announced something very interesting, that is the week-long Lok Adalat. What is the importance of it? What are the points associated with that? We will have a discussion. Article number 6, Project Tiger will displace 5.5 lakh tribals. Yesterday was International Tiger Day, and there was a very interesting report that was published by an agency, by let's say an institution, regarding the displacement effect of the Project Tiger. Article number 7, NCERT proposes 10 bagless days. And article number 8, Supreme Court refuses to stay High Court ruling on Quota bill or Quota Act that was passed by the Bihar government. So these are the total 9 articles which we will have a look at in today's discussion. Let me start with the first very important article. Can the states tax mining activities? Now, what are the important points associated with, let's say, the newspaper article or the concept that is there in the newspaper? Let me start with certain basics. Under Schedule 7 of Indian Constitution, we have divided the powers between the center as well as the states. There is a state list, there is a union list, there is a concurrent list, etc. Now, specifically under these lists, subjects are entered, or the powers which are given to the states as well as the center are entered. Now please have a look at 3 very important entries, because we will be using these entries when I discuss the Supreme Court judgment. Entry number 49, it talks about taxes on the lands as well as the buildings. This is the power given to the state government. Entry number 50, the taxes on mineral rights subject to any limitations imposed by the Parliament. I will underline, triple underline this particular part of the statement, by Parliament, by law relating to mineral development. And one more entry in the central list, regulation of mines and mineral development to take to the extent to which such regulation and development under the control of the Union is declared by the Parliament by law to be expedient in the public interest. Now some of you will be thinking, sir, what is the importance of all of these entries? Let me start the story here. Just learn it like a story, it will be easier for you. Point number 1, imagine I own certain intellectual property right. I own certain intellectual property right. Now because the ownership is given to me, you want to use the intellectual property right, I will simply allow you to use the IPR, but in return I will ask you to pay certain amount of money. And that amount of money that you will be paying to me is called as a royalty. Remember this, the amount of money that you will be paying to me because I own certain, let's say, asset. I've asked you to use it. I've allowed you to use this asset for a certain time period. You will pay amount that is called as royalty. Point number 2, now the question is, what if this asset is, let's say, a piece of land where mining can be conducted and the state government has the ownership of the land? I hope you understand this. I'll repeat it again. What if this asset that I'm talking about is a piece of land and the state government owns the land and they will give this on lease basis to somebody else, to let's say a private sector company to operate, to conduct mining activity. Now obviously the company which is conducting the mining activity will have to pay royalty to the state government. Point number 2. Point number 3, now there were certain issues related to this. Certain issues. What is the issue? First, is a royalty a tax? Is a royalty simply a charge or is it a tax? Is it a tax? We'll understand in some time. And the second issue that raised over a period of time was, can the state governments impose taxes on mining companies? Let's say the state of, let's say Jharkhand, the state of Odisha, state of Uttar Pradesh, etc. Can they impose taxes on the mining companies which are operating in their state? That is basically the taxing power of the states. The taxing power of the states on the mining companies. Now all of this started because of one case very famously known as the state of Tamil Nadu versus India Cement case. But before understanding the importance of the case, let's use these 3 entries, 49, 50 in the state list and entry number 54 in the central list. Under the powers that were given to the central government, under entry 54 of the central list, the government of India introduced Mines and Minerals Development Regulation Act of 1957. I'll repeat the statement here. Under this, Government of India introduced Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957. And under this MMDRA, Section 9 of this, the center imposed royalties on the mining companies. It allowed imposition of royalties by the state on the mining companies. Right now, come to the state of Tamil Nadu versus India Cement case. The state of Tamil Nadu, that is the government of Tamil Nadu, imposed cessus. This is point number 4 now. The state of Tamil Nadu imposed cessus on this company, that is India Cement Company. They imposed cessus. Now the cessus that were imposed by the state government were applicable on all the revenues that were generated by the India Cement Company, including the royalties. Including the royalties, the cessus were applicable. Now this company went to Tamil Nadu High Court and basically argued that this cess which has been imposed by the Tamil Nadu government will not be paid by the company. They do not want to pay these taxes or these cesses because they are already paying taxes in the form of royalty. So now the concern was whether royalty is a tax. Point number 1. And second one, do the state governments have the right to impose taxes on such mining companies? The Tamil Nadu High Court basically issued an order, issued a judgment and stated that royalties are nothing but taxes. Royalties are nothing but taxes. And because the central government under section 9 of MMDR Act has already imposed a royalty, the state government does not have the power to impose taxes again. Now this was again challenged in one more case. The same argument was challenged in one more case, that is the state of West Bengal versus Kesoram Industry. In case of this judgment that was issued, please understand, the Supreme Court basically looked at all of the argument and stated that the earlier judgment that was issued in the Indian cement case, the earlier judgment that was issued in the cement case, again by the Supreme Court of India, because it was challenged in the Supreme Court, there was an error in the typing. I'll repeat the statement. The Supreme Court in Kesoram Industries case stated that there was an error in typing of the judgment, that is the India cement case. And what was the error? The order, or basically when the judgment was issued or the order was issued, in the order copy it has been typed as royalty is a tax. Right? I hope you understand. In the Indian cement case, it is mentioned that royalty is a tax. But in case of Kesoram Industries, the Supreme Court opined that it should not be royalty is a tax, it's a typographic error, rather it should be cess on royalty is a tax. Now some of you might be wondering, sir, what is the importance of this? What do you mean by this? The importance is very simple. In the earlier Supreme Court judgment, it stated that royalty is a tax. Now the Supreme Court of India, a 5-judge bench, is saying that there is a typographic error. It should have read that cess on royalty is a tax and not royalty is a tax, which essentially means they tried to overturn the earlier judgment in the India cement case. But that was not done. Reason being, India cement case, the order was issued by the 7-judge bench, and in case of Kesoram Industries, there were only 5 judges in the bench. And this problem again arose in the year 2011 in the context of Mineral Area Development Authority case. In this particular case, multiple states are parties now. For example, Uttar Pradesh, right, the state of Jharkhand, Odisha, etc. Multiple states are party to this particular case, regarding which judgment has been issued very recently by the Supreme Court of India. Now, what is the latest judgment, which will basically address all the issues that have been taking place or that are being discussed in the last 25 years? What are the important discussions in the order? Point number 1. The judgment says that royalty is not a tax. Understand this. Royalty is not a tax. It is not at all a tax. Why? The order says, order has been written by the Chief Justice of India. The order simply states that there is a fundamental difference between what is royalty and what is a tax. In the context of this, the order says royalty is basically a payment that is done whenever there are two parties enter into an agreement or enter into a contract. I'll repeat so that you understand this better. Royalty is a payment that is paid by one party to another party when there is an agreement regarding usage of certain assets. Whereas a tax is a compulsory charge or a levy that is imposed by the government on the taxpayers. And second, in case of the taxation, the government will collect the taxes, use it for welfare purposes. But the royalty is not that. That is the reason the Supreme Court of India has ruled that royalty is not a tax. Point number 1. Point number 2. Under entry 49 and under entry 50, understand this very carefully. Under entry 49 and under entry 50, Supreme Court of India says now the states can impose taxes and collect further taxes on the mining companies. I repeat this. Both under entry 49 and under entry 50, the states can impose the taxes and collect the taxes from the mining companies. But please understand, regarding entry 50, there is a restriction. What is the restriction? subject to any limitations imposed by the Parliament by law. The central government was arguing that there is already MMDR Act, and because there is MMDR Act, look at the entry 49, the states should not be allowed to impose any kind of taxes. Supreme Court of India said, yes, there is an MMDR Act, but there is no provision in the MMDR Act. I repeat, there is no provision in the MMDR Act which prohibits the states from imposing taxes. And that's the reason, understand this carefully, that's the reason now the central government is expected to amend the MMDR Act. All of you able to understand this? That's the reason the century is expected to amend the MMDR Act to introduce a provision which will curtail the taxation power of the states. But moreover, the Chief Justice of India also stated that the states still will have the power to impose the taxes under entry 49, because the states argued that it covers lands. The entry 49 covers lands, and the mining land will also be covered under entry 49. So CJI in the judgment said under entry 50 restriction is there, but MMDR Act doesn't have any provision prohibiting the state imposing taxes. But now, in addition to entry 50, states are allowed to use entry 49 also to impose the taxes on the mining companies and collect the taxes. That is the second very important point regarding the states' powers to impose the taxes on the mining companies. Now, this is one part of the story, one side of the story. What is the second side of the story? Are there any repercussions? Are there any concerns regarding this kind of a judgment? And this judgment was issued by a 9-judge constitutional bench, out of which 8 were on one side, basically allowing the states to impose the taxes and collect, and there was a lone dissenting judgment or an order copy, and that was given by Justice Nagaratna. What were the arguments which have been provided by Justice Nagaratna? Let's understand the concerns regarding this kind of a judgment. Point number 1, Justice Nagaratna says, the earlier Supreme Court order of, let's say, the state of West Bengal versus Kesoram Industries, that is the Kesoram industry case, the bench consisted of 5 judges. They did not have the right competence to basically comment on, I repeat, they did not have the right competence to comment on the India Cement case where there was 7 judges. That has to be taken care of. Second, this kind of a majority judgment which will allow the states to impose taxes will have long-term economic effects. Lot of economic problems will be caused because of such kind of a judgment. What kind of problems are we talking about? Let's say now states will start imposing taxes under entry 49 as well as entry 50. This will lead to double taxation. And moreover, Justice also says that you are giving power to entry 49, which is a very general entry. I hope you understand. Please look at the entry 49 and 50 again. Entry 49 is a very general power, general entry. And entry 50 is a specific entry. Now, if you allow the states to use both entry 49 and 50 to impose taxes on the mining companies, don't you think you are giving a power to one entry to basically subsume, overtake another entry which is very specific in nature? That is a cause of concern, right? Second concern. Third very important concern. Now, many of the states will start imposing taxes under 49 and 50, as a result of which the taxes paid by the mining companies will start increasing, and that will be reflected in the market price of the products which are sold by these companies to others. Let's say steel is sold, or let's say the ore of the iron is sold in the market. As a result of double taxation like this, market price would be higher. The company which wants to manufacture steel will purchase the ore paying higher taxes now. Now that will basically translate into higher market prices of the commodities, and that will hurt the exports, that will hurt common man such as you, such as me. Point number 3. Many of the states which will offer lower taxes or only one of the taxes, either under entry 49 or under entry 50, might start competing with other states, and this will lead to a competition to the bottom, where multiple states will compete amongst themselves in cutting down the taxes, lowering the taxes, and the mining companies, if none of the states will do this, their investments could be affected. The investments by the mining companies could be affected. And another very important concern or the impact associated with this kind of a, let's say, powers given to the states is that, what if in certain states, the companies, rather than purchasing from the domestic market where the prices are higher because of double taxation, they will start importing. And if they start importing, the imports will start rising and our forex reserves will start depleting. There will be pressure on India's forex reserves. So these are some of the concerns which have been raised by Justice Nagaratna regarding the powers given to the states now to impose taxes under entry 49 as well as 50 on the mining companies. So I hope you have understood the issue in detail, and this is a very important issue. The repercussions, or let's say the concepts in this, are important in the context of, let's say, GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 3. Now regarding this, I've given you one assignment. Today I've got multiple assignments to you, and I see a lot of you answer to the questions in the comment section, and many of you do not answer. If you are practicing them more than sufficient, I hope you're practicing them. Consider the following statements. I've given you 3 statements here. How many of the above statements is or are true, you will have to find out. Attempt this MCQ 1, assignment number 1. If you know the answer, let me know in the comment section. Let me go to the next article. The problem with India's blocking of Chinese. One editorial. Second editorial in today's business line. Indian Chinese firms teaming up will pay off. Now let me club both of these articles, have a wholesome discussion so that you will also get a lot of knowledge regarding what is being discussed in multiple newspapers. Point number 1, historically if you see, India's and USA relations in the last 1.5 decades, right, have improved. The relations, trade relations, security relations, overall relations between India and USA have improved. But on the other side, the relations between India and China have not been moving in a similar direction. Sometimes there is an improvement in the relation, and after certain events there is a thaw, basically a downward movement in the improvement of the relations between India and China. Especially in the last 4 years, that is after year 2020, which is basically associated with the Galwan clash. After the Galwan clash, there has been basically a deterioration, right, a deterioration of the trade relations or the overall relations between India and China. After this clash was reported, Government of India implemented multiple measures, multiple reforms to basically cut off or reduce the trade relation that exists between India as well as China. For example, one of the very important reforms was, if FDI will come into India from any of the neighboring countries which share a land border with India, then this FDI has to go through only the approval route. The investments will have to go through only the approval route. That is the first one. Second, which has become a cause of concern in recent times, which we'll discuss in some time. India imports a lot of technology from China, including, let's say, certain raw materials, certain products, as well as certain machinery. Now, in such cases, when the technology is imported, let's say machinery is imported into India from China, somebody who is an expert has to come from China, install the machinery, train the people in India regarding how to use the machinery. But for that, visas are required. Post 2020, the number of visas which have been issued by Government of India has been very, very less. And even though certain visas are issued, the time taken for issuing visas has abruptly increased. For example, in 2019, the number of visas that were issued was somewhere on the lines of 2 lakh. Right, around 2 lakh visas were issued. After that, 2020 Galwan clash happened. And as per the recent data, in the year 2023, somewhere around 2,000 visas have been issued. And in 2022, 2024, again we are expecting the number to be around the same ballpark. That is somewhere around 2,000 visas. So you can see there is a sudden decrease in the number of visas that have been issued to the workers or the people who will come from China, provide technical assistance in India. And not just this, the time that is taken, I repeat, the time that is taken to issue the visas also has increased. Approximately it is said the ministries take approximately around 5 months. The Ministry of Home Affairs takes approximately around 5 months to issue a visa, if at all a visa is issued for a Chinese worker to come into India. So the time period is very high. Number of visas issued have become very, very less. And what is the problem with this? What is the impact of this? Government of India wants to promote Make in India. Correct? Government of India wants to promote Make in India. But to promote Make in India, we need to promote investments, we need to promote manufacturing. To promote manufacturing, we already have the concept of Production Linked Incentive, PLI, Production Linked Incentive. But under PLI, let's say I'm a company who has been, let's say covered under PLI. To increase production, I've invested, brought in a machinery from China, but now Government of India is delaying providing visa for a technical person to come from China and teach me how to use the machinery. As a result of this, investment has been done. Machinery is there, but nobody knows how to operate the machinery. So that's the reason the concern which has been raised by the multiple authorities, multiple representative bodies very recently to the Government of India is these kind of policies which have been followed. And I hope you understand, the Ministry of Home Affairs is also right in its own case saying that we are worried about national security. We want to vet these particular people, right, very carefully, ensuring that none of these people who will come are involved in certain, let's say, anti-Indian government activities. So argument of the MHA is that. But on the other side, the industry bodies are of the argument that if you do all of this, delay providing visas and give lesser visas, our investments in the PLI would be affected. So that is the catch-22 situation. That is basically the dilemma for the government now regarding the second very important reform. Third very important issue that has been discussed in the two articles is that the basic problem why we are not able to compete with China. Because please understand, we have implemented so many reforms to reduce the trade or the import dependence on China. Despite doing all of this, even today, we import a lot of goods and services from China. What is the reason? Why are we not able to cut off this kind of a dependence on the Chinese imports? The reason which has been cited as the basic problem associated with this is the education system. The education system. Some of you will ask me, sir, how education system will have an impact on all of this? I'm reminded of one of the statements that was used by Economic Survey earlier. The survey says, today's children or tomorrow's workers. Again, please do not take this in a negative sense. Please understand the importance of the statement. Today's children are tomorrow's workers. Essentially meaning, if you provide right education to them, if you provide right skilling to them, if you ensure that they will have appropriate, let's say, the requirements in terms of job qualifications, etc., they'll be absorbed in a better way in the market. That will help in contributing to the growth of the economy as well as the growth of the household in terms of better, stable, higher incomes. That was the argument of the Economic Survey. And to do all of that, you need better quality education. Now, if you compare India versus China in terms of education, which has been done by one of the authors in the article, if you compare educational standards, the argument here is that the education standards in China are much higher compared to what is the quality of education. I hope you understand quality of education in case of India. For example, there is a test which has been mentioned here. You can see that there is a test which has been mentioned here, And according to this particular test, that is a Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, two data sets have been provided. According to PISA, we basically identify how many people, how many children who are studying have right arithmetic skills, right educational skills which are used in the international economy. So under PISA, large number of Chinese children have qualified this over a period of time. Whereas the author simply says, India appeared for this particular survey back in the year 2009 and the performance was very poor. And post that, India has not been participating under PISA. In addition to this, there is also one more data set which has been provided to talk about education in India. That data simply says around 85% of the children, in China have right skill sets which can be used over a period of time. Again, when I say children, with right over a period of time getting educational qualification, they will have the right amount of skill sets to be absorbed in the labor market. Whereas this number in the context of India falls down to 15%. It falls down to 15%. So which basically means there is something wrong in terms of, let's say, the education or the quality of education that we are offering to the children in the schools, in the colleges, etc. And that has been one of the cause of concerns all along, which has been reflected in the national education policy as well. And that's the reason under National Education Policy 2016, under National Education Policy 2020, which we celebrated the fourth anniversary yesterday itself. So understand this, as per the National Education Policy, there are various provisions to provide vocational training, to integrate the learnings, not only in terms of textbook learning, but also the application of the knowledge in terms of, let's say, what kind of skill sets are required, what kind of training is required for the children in the schools, in the colleges, etc. is being discussed under the education policy. So this is one more very important point discussed in the article. Let me go to the fourth very important point. The fourth very important point is, although the trade relations have not been on par or, let's say, better in recent times, can we leverage the situation that is existing between USA and China and attain higher exports, attract lot of investments, and also reduce the import dependence from China? What is the path that has been recommended by the authors in the article here? The path is very simple. Indian companies should enter into international joint ventures with Chinese companies. Listen to me very carefully. The Indian companies should enter into international joint ventures, IJV, international joint ventures with the companies from China. And if you're wondering, sir, is that possible? Already it is happening. In the year 2023, Government of India has already approved one joint venture with, let's say, a Chinese company with an Indian company. The IJV has already been approved. So argument is very simple. The trade relations between China and USA are very bad now. And even Chinese trade with other economies is also suffering. For example, European markets are imposing lot of taxes on the exports that are entering into their markets from China. USA, the earlier president, Mr. Donald Trump, targeted the exports from China, and that actually led to a trade war between the USA as well as China. And the current president of USA, Mr. Joe Biden, also has been following the same argument, has imposed more and more tariffs on the exports coming from China. So there is a problem regarding China exporting more products to USA and European market. Rather than this, how about Indian companies entering into a joint venture where, again, I hope you understand, we will take all the measures, we'll take all the, let's say, regulations, impose these regulations to protect our interest. So there is a joint venture between an Indian company and a Chinese company. Production will happen in India. Investment will come, right? Certain amount of investment will come from China. Production will happen in India, and these will be exported into European market as well as USA market. And what is the advantage of it? The advantage is that the Chinese companies which are bearing the burden of higher tariffs when they directly export from China to USA and European Union, now they'll be able to escape from those particular tariffs because the products will be manufactured in India and exported to USA as well as European market. First point. Point number 2, if they will invest in India, the FDI, foreign direct investment in India, will start increasing, and we want that. Because in recent times, FDIs, the flow of FDI has been affected, and India was ranked in terms of accepting inflow of FDI, India was ranked at 8th position. Now it is at 15th position. So argument is simple. We will be able to attract more FDI. That will improve our performance. We will be able to create more jobs. We will be able to produce more in India and export more, and contribution to GDP will also start increasing. So why are we not leveraging this kind of a model to ensure that production will increase, import dependence will decrease, we'll be able to export more. So these are certain very important things that are being discussed in these 2 articles, editorials, both of them. One is from the Business Line, second one is right in the Hindu newspaper itself. Now regarding this, is it important? These kind of articles, are they relevant? Please have a look at a previous year question that is in the mains examination 2023. And interestingly, this question was asked not in the GS paper 3 but GS paper 2. Skill development programs have succeeded in increasing human resources supplied to various sectors. In the context of the statement, analyze the linkages between education, skill and employment. So these kind of questions are being asked by the UPSC in the mains examination. Be very, very careful. Now many of the students generally send a mail to me or put a comment in the section of the video asking me, sir, what are the important basics or important points in learning Indian economy? I'm very weak, right? Help me, etc. For those kind of students, we already have launched an initiative by the name of Economy for Beginners. So far, 11 classes have been conducted. Today at 12 p.m. we have the 12th class, and this is on our platform. And there was one very interesting question raised by the student in my earlier video. Is this initiative of Economy for Beginners, is it a paid initiative or a free initiative? My dear, it is purely a free initiative. You don't have to pay anything except in the form of the likes for the video as well as the subscription for our YouTube channel. In addition to this, if you want certain updates regarding economy articles, for example, let's say weekly economy article compilation, practice question, along with that, let's say certain articles which will help you in writing the answer, you can join my Telegram channel. The QR code for the Telegram channel is there right in front of you. All you need to do is scan and join the channel. Now let me go to the next article. Any further delay in census is perilous. Now please understand, the first census was conducted back in the year 1862. And the first full census was conducted in the year 1871. And since then, it's been more than 150 years. Since then, every decade, a decade after a decade, we have been conducting census. Post-independence, we have conducted multiple census, and again, I'm talking about population census here. But very recently, we were supposed to conduct census, population census in the year 2021. The government of India stated that because of the pandemic, lot of disruption has taken place, so we will not be able to conduct the census. And till today, although the notification was issued by the government back in the year 2019, till today, nothing has been done regarding conducting population census. Now, very recently announced budget for the department, certain amount of money has been allocated, somewhere in the range of 1,300 crore rupee. Do not memorize this number, not at all relevant. And in the context of that and delays that have been done by the government in conducting the census, there is a discussion in the editorial page. Lot of the discussion is very technical regarding requirement of training, that, this, etc. Let's not enter into the technicality of the census. Let's understand why the census is actually required. If the government of India wants to find out how many people are there in India, what kind of, let's say, stratification is present, how many households are there, so that the government can formulate a very quality policy. The policy which is framed based on quality data. The best source of information is the census, population census. But because government has not conducted a population census post 2011, I repeat, post 2011, there is no population census which has been conducted by the government. It is hindering the effectiveness of various policies. It is hindering the policy making of Government of India. In that particular light, why should the government conduct the policy census as soon as possible, population census as soon as possible? The arguments are as following. Point number one, we need to conduct a delimitation. And for example, there is an act which has been implemented by the government, that is 33% Reservation Act for women in Lok Sabha for that matter. For that to be implemented now, we require, right, let's say a population census. We require the data for population, which can be used to delimit, which can be used to adjust the administrative boundaries of various places, etc. So that is the first reason why there is a need for the government to conduct population census ASAP. Point number two, there are various reforms which are being implemented by the government. For example, National Food Security Act, NFSA, National Food Security Act. Under National Food Security Act, more than 81 crore people have been identified and they are provided certain amount of entitlement in the form of 5 kgs free food grains. But this population which is covered under NFSA is according to the year 2011, that is population census data for the year 2011. Don't you think what is the population today would be different? There is a need to basically find out the setup, or let's say the granular data regarding population distribution, using which you can change or make changes to the policies such as NFSA. That is also very much important. Point number 3 here. Point number 3, very recently the Government of India has notified Finance Commission. The 16th Finance Commission has been established. But one of the things which is very much notable regarding the terms of references which have been provided to the 16th Finance Commission is that there is no mention regarding which population should be used by the 16th FC. Which population should be used? Because the 16th FC will give recommendation regarding vertical devolution as well as horizontal devolution formula. But to provide horizontal devolution formula, you need population. And based on the parameter population, certain weightage has to be provided. So now there is a concern, what population will be used by the 16th FC then? Because if you see historically, 7th to 13th Finance Commission, they used the population of the 1971. The 14th Finance Commission played it very safe, gave certain weightage to the 1971 as well as 2011 population. 15th Finance Commission gave weightage to 2011 census population data. Now the question is, will they use 2011 census data, which is almost outdated? If they do that, then the amount of devolution that will go to again the most populated states will be very high, and that can further increase the friction that is already existing between the center as well as the states. So these are some of the reasons why the Government of India needs to conduct the population census as soon as possible. Now regarding this, I have given an assignment for mains answer writing practice. The National Population Census is not just a fundamental source of most credible and comprehensive information about demographic and socio-economic conditions of any country, but is also sine qua non for evidence-based policy making, allocation of resources and public administration. In this context, to discuss the need for conducting population census. Right, so that is an assignment. Attempt it. Next article, Center likely to move ILO against its India employment report. Now earlier discussions were mainly based regarding the topics in the mains examination. Now let's look at certain smaller articles as well. central government is likely to complain to ILO regarding its own report that they have published regarding India's unemployment data. What is the article all about? Understand, in the month of March, International Labour Organization came out with a report, and according to that particular report, there were certain concerning outcomes regarding the unemployment data for India. The data is very simple. If you are writing the mains examination this year, please memorize this. You can use it to write a very good quality answer. The proportion of working age group population has increased. It was 61% in 2011, it has increased to 64% in 2021, and further it is expected to increase beyond 65% as well. Second, 7 to 8 million youth. And I hope you understand when I say percentage population here, it is basically the population which falls in the age group of 15 years to 59 years. 15 to 59 years. Second, 7 to 8 million youth join the labor force every year. A lot of them are skilled, a lot of them are unskilled, a lot of them are educated. And the concerning factor that was raised in this report was, please have a look at this, the share of educated youth. The share of educated youth among all the unemployed population has actually increased. It has increased in the last decade. That is, in a nutshell, the report says that if you have more educational qualification, there are more chances that you will not get a job in India. And that is a concerning factor. So these are some of the findings which were published in the ILO report. Now, what is the argument of Government of India? Government of India consistently has been arguing that whatever data is published by other agencies, right, do not take them seriously, in the sense there are certain flaws in the reports. The flaws will incur because the methodology could be different. The sample size that is used by the agencies could be different, or the definitions which are used for employment, unemployment, labor force, etc. could be different. And that's the reason Government of India's representatives are now saying that they will approach ILO and raise a complaint regarding the ILO's report on India's situation. Right, so this is right basically in a nutshell what is given in the article here. Let me go to the next article. Supreme Court begins week-long Lok Adalat drive. Very important article considering, let's say, the current affairs from GS paper 2. What is this Lok Adalat drive? Listen to me carefully. Basically, Supreme Court of India has been criticized multiple times because of cases which are high in number, pending cases, and second, because these cases have been pending for a very longer duration. According to the data which has been provided by the government, in the month of December, according to the data which has been provided by the government, December 2023, there are more than 80,000 cases which were pending in the Supreme Court. And these number of cases have increased by more than 35%. Have increased by more than 35% from December 2019, when the number of cases which were pending was somewhere around, I'm just rounding off the number, somewhere around 59,800 cases. So in a span of 4 years, the number of cases which are pending at the Supreme Court have increased by 35%. Point number 2, Supreme Court of India this year is celebrating Golden Jubilee. It is celebrating 75 years. It is celebrating 75 years of its establishment. And again, just make a correction, not a Golden Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee. Okay, not a Golden Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee. So 75 years of establishment, which essentially mean Supreme Court of India was established back in the year 1950. And it was established on 28th January 1950. Exactly 2 days after 26th January 1950. What is the importance of 26th January 1950? Please do let me know in the comment section if you know the answer to this. So it succeeded the earlier Federal Court of India, which was established under the Government of India's Act of 1935. So as a part of its celebration, multiple measures have been undertaken by the Supreme Court. One of them is holding week-long Lok Adalat drive. And what is this week-long Lok Adalat drive? There are multiple cases which are pending at the Supreme Court level. And in this week, it has started now. In this week, the Supreme Court of India wants to resolve 6,700 cases. Only in this week they want to resolve, basically come to a conclusion regarding the order to be issued in 6,700 cases. How it is going to be done? And what are the features of the Lok Adalat drive which is being conducted by the Supreme Court for the first time ever? In this, the Lok Adalat drive, the first 7 benches of the Supreme Court every day afternoon, that is after the lunch break at 2 p.m. will start informally hearing the cases. That is, it will basically hear the cases from both the sides, try to console both of the parties and arrive at an, right, let's say settlement. Try to talk to both the parties and try to come to, right, a settlement in most of these particular cases. And please understand, this setting that is being talked about in the Lok Adalat is very much informal. It is an informal setting. In fact, it was said that yesterday, when the Lok Adalat, the first day, the proceedings began, the Supreme Court judges or justices came not in the usual attire, but one was wearing, right, let's say the Nehru, right, let's say shirt as such. The other one was wearing the suit, etc. So argument is it is an informal setting. Second, please understand, in this Lok Adalat drive, the objective is to clear the very, very low hanging cases. That is the cases which are easier to settle. They want to clear most of these cases. Third one, whatever is the order issued in the Lok Adalat, it cannot be appealed. It cannot be appealed. The order will be binding, it cannot be appealed. Fourth one, the use of Lok Adalat is that it is a time-saving practice now. You will be able to save a lot of time, and more importantly, the cost of getting, let's say, the order from the Supreme Court of India, because multiple hearings means your lawyer has to appear multiple times, you will have to appear multiple times. All of this will add to the cost associated with the case. Now, under the Lok Adalat, they want to resolve these cases and reduce the cost associated with these cases. Right, so these are some of the very important points regarding the first Lok Adalat drive that has been initiated by the Supreme Court of India, celebrating the Diamond Jubilee, that is 75 years of its establishment. Now, before I go forward, one more important assignment. What are the constitutional articles which talk about Supreme Court of India? And I hope you know, Supreme Court of India is a constitutional authority. Okay. Next article, Project Tiger will displace 5.5 lakh tribals. 29th of July, please understand, as already mentioned, it is International Tiger Day. It is International Tiger Day. So on one side, the government of India was basically, right, celebrating International Tiger Day. And on the other side, yesterday, that is 29th July, Rights and Risk Analysis Group, RRAG, Rights and Risk Analysis Group came out with a report. The title of the report, have a look at it, India's Tiger Reserves, Tribals Get Out, Tourists Welcome. This was the title of the report. Now, what are the findings? What are the findings of the report? But before that, let me give you certain information, because please understand, in the year 2023, the Project Tiger was launched back in the year 1973. So in the year 2023, we have celebrated 50 years. We basically completed 50 years of the Project Tiger. And the government of India has given certain very important data regarding what has been the performance of Project Tiger in the last 50 plus years, because now it is 2024, so it is 51 years. So the number of tigers, as per the data given by the government in 2023, has increased to 3,682. The number of let's say the conservation efforts, right, the number of the tiger projects, or basically the Project Tiger, under this, the areas that are covered, right, the number has actually increased to 54 now. Please remember, the tiger reserves, the number has actually increased to 54. When we launched Project Tiger, 9 reserves were covered. Over a period of time, it has been increased to cover 54 now. And in fact, in the PIB report which was published, they specifically mentioned the latest one which has been set up in Madhya Pradesh, that is Veerangana Durgavati Reserve. Veerangana Durgavati Reserve, which has been established in Madhya Pradesh. This is basically mentioned in the PIB report. But more importantly, please make a note of this now. According to the report which has been published by RRAG, they mention there are 55 reserves. Whereas the PIB, I would recommend please go with the PIB report. They have basically mentioned there are 54 tiger reserves in India. These are basically certain factual information regarding the tiger reserves, the Project Tiger, etc. Now come to the point here. What is the report mentioning? What is the issue raised by the report? The report mentions that with implementation of the provisions under Project Tiger, what has happened is over a period of time, lot of people have been asked to relocate because the land that they are residing in, for example, tribal communities, the indigenous people, they have been asked to get relocated, they have been asked to move out of this land because that land is part of the Project Tiger or covered under Tiger Reserve now. As a result of this, the number of people who are getting displaced over a period of time has actually increased. In fact, the data which has been provided, which is very alarming, the data simply says the 50 tiger reserves since 1973, if you cover these 50 tiger reserves, the number of people who have been displaced till 2021 comes out to be somewhere around 2.5 lakh people. That is, if you do the simple CSAT calculation, per reserve, 5,000 people have been vacated from their original lands. But since 2021, in the last 4 years, only in 6 tiger reserves, more than 48,000 people have been asked to vacate. That is, move out of this region, which is a much larger number. Is it okay? Much larger number. So I hope you understand, right? And again, I hope you understand this particular point. I said 48,000 people. That's not the total number of people. That is average. Per reserve, 48,000 people have been displaced because of the implementation of Project Tiger. So from 5,000, now this has increased to more than 48,000, which is nothing but more than 960% increase. The numbers of people who have been removed or displaced because of the Project Tiger has increased by 960% plus in the last 4 years. That's what the article says, or the report says, is an alarming number. And I hope you understand this point. It's not just associated with the Project Tiger. Someone will say, sir, what is the problem? If I want to implement Project Tiger, the government will require land. What is the problem in that? The issue is not just associated with Project Tiger. Have a bigger view. Have a bigger picture. Generally, what we see is there is a need to balance. The government's policies need to balance between the rights of the indigenous people with growth and development. In multiple cases, there have been frictions between the law as well as the people residing in the region, which also has led to a lot of violence against the people residing in the region because the government has announced, let's say, a mining activity in that region. The government has announced construction of a dam in that particular region, etc. So there is always a need to have a balance between the rights of the people indigenous to that region along with the objective of the government to promote growth and development in the region. Right, so in that particular context, this article becomes very much relevant. Now these are certain information points regarding the article. One more MCQ assignment. Consider the following statements. I have given you 3 statements. How many of the statements are true? Let me know the answer in the comment section. Okay, let me go to the next article. NCERT proposes 10 bagless days a year for students from class 6th to class 8th. Now please tell me honestly, don't you think a lot of times you must have seen certain person or certain student who has a lot of information regarding what is given in a book. but they do not understand how to behave in, let's say, a societal setting. They do not understand, or they do not have right information regarding how the market behaves, etc., etc. Right? In the common language, we refer to some people as to having a lot of bookish language or bookish knowledge. They know a lot of information. They are very good students. But the problem is they do not understand how the society operates. I'm pretty sure you must have come across many people like that. Now, to address that, to basically ensure that these children at the growing stage itself, these children will get access to or get exposed to the market. That is basically how the society behaves, how people work, how to respect the work done by artisans, craftsmen, etc., to respect the culture and heritage of India, etc. NCERT has announced 10 bagless days. It's an announcement, 10 bagless days. In essence, please understand, this concept of a bagless days was actually provided under National Education Policy, NEP 2020. And we have completed 4 years of the NEP now. And under the completion of 4 years, the celebration, the NCERT has actually announced the concept of 10 bagless days, which is proposed under NEP 2020 for the students who are learning in the standard 6th to 8th. Now, what is the concept of a bagless day? Under this particular bagless days, 10 days in an annum. That is 10 days in 1 year. The students will be taken outside or will be asked to work within the, let's say, the school premises, basically interacting with, let's say, the people who are working, such as the artisans, the craftsmen, etc. They might be asked to go to the market, conduct a survey regarding how the prices are moving in the market. They might be taken to a higher educational institution within the same district, same taluk or same state, so that they will get exposure to the, let's say, the kind of education that is provided, etc. Or they might be taken to a cultural, let's say, a monument or a heritage monument, where they'll be able to learn a lot of information regarding the culture, heritage of India. Essentially, whatever they're learning in the books, now we want them to learn, or in addition to that, we want them to learn, apply the knowledge in the, right, let's say, real society. That is basically the concept of bagless days. This will be available, or this will be implemented for all the students who are studying in the 6th standard to 8th standard, as mentioned in the National Education Policy. And under this, these 10 days, because many of you will have this kind of a doubt. So 10 days in one slot, right, one shot, or 10 days, can we break it up into multiple, let's say, the groups like this? The policy simply says it is better to have all these 10 days split into at least 2 or 3 groups. I hope you understand. It is better to have this policy of 10 days, bagless days, split into the group of 2 or 3 days, or 2 or 3 groups, so that multiple times in a year can be done. All the teachers will be involved in creating of an annual plan, and this will be implemented for all the children annually from the standard 6th to 8th standard. So this is basically what has been provided under this article of NCERT proposing 10 bagless days. And remember this, one more point is provided here. There is one more point. The Bhopal-based PSS, Central Institute of Vocational Education, has created this program, has created a pilot project which will be emulated, which will be used to implement this across all the regions. Okay, and this PSS, Central Institute of Vocational Education, is working under NCERT itself. It functions under NCERT. Now, based on this discussion, I have given one more MCQ. Assignment number 3, MCQ assignment number 3, portal has been launched by the government to provide equal access to quality education for competitive examinations such as JEE, NEET, SSC, etc. What is the name of the portal? 4 options are there. Which is the right option? Do let me know. The last article for today, GS paper 2, Supreme Court of India refuses to stay High Court ruling quashing 65% quota in Bihar. there are certain very interesting points which are being discussed. Let's have a look at this. Point number 1, before the elections, the state government of Bihar conducted a survey, and based on the findings of the survey, the state government introduced a bill and passed the bill, became an act. And according to these two acts, the state government of Bihar increased the reservation from 50% total to 65%. Against this, right, I hope you understand, all of the discussion regarding this has been done earlier as well. So against this order or against this act of the state government, petitions were filed in the High Court there, Bihar High Court or Patna High Court, and the High Court basically struck down these amendments. The High Court basically stated the amendments are violating Article 14, 15 and 16 of Indian Constitution, and as such there is a judgment of Supreme Court of India, Indira Sahni case, under which you are not allowed to increase the ceiling of reservation to more than 50% until unless there is an emergency or there is a need for it. So the Patna High Court ruled saying that this is violating all of this, hence the acts will be struck down. Now against the ruling of the Patna High Court, the Bihar government has approached Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India, which heard the matter yesterday, the Chief Justice of India stated that the Supreme Court will not be providing, let's say, a pause or will not be issuing a stay on the ruling of the Patna High Court. But right, in the month of September, Supreme Court of India will start hearing the petitions or will start hearing both the sides of the argument. Right, whether this kind of an act should be allowed to be implemented, should we increase the ceiling to more than 50 and make it 65%, or should we stick to the 50% ceiling itself? This is one point. Second point, on the sidelines of this, there is also discussion that the Chief Minister of Bihar has asked the Prime Minister to include these acts under Schedule 9. Under Schedule 9 of Indian Constitution. What is the importance of inclusion under the Schedule 9? Once these acts or let's say the policies of the state governments are covered under Schedule 9, generally these are immune from being reviewed by the Supreme Court. Although there is a judgment against that as well. But please understand, it says that there is a demand. Right? It was there in other newspapers as well. There is a demand that these laws should be included under Schedule 9, which many experts say will be very difficult to task. Why? If the Bihar's demand is accepted, already there is a criticism against the central government that in the budget they have favored the two states, that is Bihar and the other ally. And now even the laws passed by their, let's say, friendlier political parties or their allies will get included under Schedule 9. Many other states which have other ruling parties or government formed by other parties, they will also take the laws to the center, ask it to be included under Schedule 9. If center says no, then there will be a criticism. And if center says yes, lot of these demands can be put forward by other states. That is one important, very interesting discussion that is happening. Second interesting discussion is Mr. Prashant Kishore, a political analyst who says he is going to launch a political party on 2nd October, has come out with a proposal. Very interesting proposal, by the way. He says once he forms a government, right, once the elections are over and he forms a government, he proposes reservation based on proportionate reservation. That is based on how much is the proportion of the population of 5 classes, that is basically Muslims, the Hindus, right, or other population, right, let's say the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, the backward classes, other backward classes, extremely backward classes, etc. Based on the representation in the population, proportionate reservation would be provided. And that is basically one more formula which has been floated to increase the discussion regarding the reservation system in India. And I'm pretty sure all of you have watched Chetan sir's discussion regarding the creamy layer OBC reservation discussion in the yesterday session. If you are yet to watch it, please do watch. So there is a lot of discussion that has been happening regarding or surrounding the concept of reservation in India. Please do watch that video as well. Done. So these are certain points which have been provided regarding the article of Supreme Court of India refusing to provide a stay on the Patna High Court ruling, stopping or banning the implementation of the amendment, or let's say the reservation policy of the state of Bihar. So these are the various important articles as well as certain questions or the concepts associated with these articles. Lot of them are from Hindu newspaper, one of them is from Business Line. If you like these initiatives, hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the section below, and do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a great day.